So I know I talked about DC movies before, but Avengers is coming, and shit, and I haven't talked about any of the Marvel movies. Fuck. So I figured, since the time is coming close, that I talk about all these movies. Okay, I'm just gonna leave that on the floor right now. So now we all kind of grew up with the MCU, right? We had a whole bunch, like a whole decade of these movies. And it's just been getting better and better as years come along. It hasn't all been perfect, but it's all been leading up to a huge event that we're going to be seeing in a little bit, which is kind of really insane to think about. It's actually awesome to think about and also horrifying because, not everyone seems like they're going to live. But I figured that we start off by actually talking about these movies. So I'm going to do a video about each phase, about pretty much my general idea of like how I feel about them. Not complicated. Obviously, I love them. But so I figured let's just start with one video about phase 1, huh? So we're going to start with the first Iron Man. Not really. What can I say about the first Iron Man? It's the one that started this whole thing. It's a classic. It's hard for me to really hate the movie. I mean, there's nothing really inherently special about it, with the after credit scene at the end showcasing that this is not going to be that he is not the only superhero in this world later on this entire universe. It was just fun. Like, it had a bit of a serious note to it. It felt a little bit more adult than I guess other superhero movies. There is that, but I can always pop in and still enjoy it, even though it's been like an entire decade, which is kind of weird. 2008, it's 10 years ago. God, I feel old. In any event, it's the one that started this whole thing, and it's a super enjoyable superhero movie. Nothing incredibly special about it, but it was fun. I feel like I've looked around and people have had like kind of mixed reviews about this movie. I personally enjoy the hell out of it, especially considering we had one other Hulk movie and sorry, that's a good one, but that's how I felt about the other one. But anyway, this was interesting, especially considering they were more inspired by the TV show back in the day, which was, pretty nice. And I thought it was very emotional. Edward Norton did a pretty good job, even though he's not going to be the Hulk ever again. But still, even so, like, it was really nice to see the Hulk come back to the big screen and fighting another Hulk character. The other movie didn't even have that kind of antagonist. It was cool seeing Hulk against Hulk in a weird version of the Abomination that was kind of just odd to look at. I kind of like the design, but I kind of get the complaints behind it, that he looks like a fish dude in the comic book, and now he looks like I don't even know what to describe him, like a skull head. I thought it was fun. I thought it was a really cool version of the Hulk, and I enjoyed the supporting characters and Betty Ross and General Ross, even though we're only gonna see one of them after this, which kind of sucks. And we'll get into that a little later, considering it kind of deals into another issue I have with another Marvel movie, but we're going to get into that later on. Anyway, I enjoyed it. I thought it was pretty cool. That's just me. So now we're going to get into the ones that I can't say I hated, but they're kind of definitely on my low bar, like amongst my least favorite Marvel MCU movies. So let's get started, Let's get started, shall we? I don't know what to really say about Iron Man 2. The way I think about it, I don't really have an insane amount of complaints about it. Well, even though it's kind of like the logical ones of this thing that's helping Tony is also poisoning him. I'm fine with that, but I'm also kind of thinking in the back of my mind, it wouldn't hurt if he actually surgically got the shards removed. It's not like it's actually literally replacing his heart like in the comics. But whatever. But the other thing that it kind of brings about is the fact that he's obviously destructive in that movie, and it kind of feels like his friends don't really act like his friends, like Rhodes kind of has a bit of concern like there's something wrong, but then he kind of dismisses it, and about 15 minutes later decides to kick Tony's ass. I guess everyone, we all wanted that fight, Rhodey in an Iron Man suit, Tony in an Iron Man suit duking it out, but Rhodey and Pepper just don't really kind of do the whole friend thing, he's destructive, figure out why. I don't know, I feel like Tony doesn't have really great friends. But, whatever. I guess the other issue is just that, it kind of just feels like it's trying to do what the first Iron Man did. So, and when you do that, it's just not quite as fun. It was fun. It's just not as good as the first Iron Man. Not to me, anyway. But I feel like that's kind of the whole thing with these. None of them are bad movies. It's just kind of which ones are more enjoyable and which ones are more thematically interesting. And Iron Man 2 and the next movie we're going to talk about, to me, not so much. So Thor. Eh. There it went. Again, it's another thing of like, it's not like an inherently bad movie, but it just didn't make Thor interesting to me. You know what I mean? Like Asgard, you know, it was pretty cool. It's kind of nice to see like the whole they're aliens, not just, you know, the fact that they're Norse gods, but you know that they're aliens. Everyone likes Loki. That's goes without saying. But I feel like the whole movie, like just in general, I never truly liked the Thor movies. That's really just kind of how it is. You know, it's interesting, you know, God of Thunder and all that, cool fights. Although I couldn't help but feel like this was like a movie to just make and then get to that step to the, you know, the first Avengers movie. But other than that, I don't know, it didn't really have anything to bring. You know, it brought together characters, you know. Phil Coulson keeps being like seeded into these movies, besides the Hulk one. You know, it mentions other characters like Loki, but not Loki. Loki's a character, but I mean Loki. This is the funny thing. These movies I don't really have super complaints about. At least not these current ones. It's just that I just didn't find them as interesting. That's just the downfall for me. I mean, that's just it. The next one that we're actually going to talk about, I do actually kind of like. Captain America, the First Avenger. Now, while I like the other two Captain America movies a lot better, this one was still pretty fun, you know? It kind of harkened back to, I guess you could say, the golden age of superheroes. That's what it felt like, especially with the whole World War II, 1940s setting. It was kind of cool to see that whole thing, because we know that eventually it's going to shift to the whole fact that Steve is going to be a man out of time, in a way, when he wakes up, like, in the 2000s. Kind of sad. You know, this one was cool, had some emotions, and then like it kind of ties down a lot of stuff, at least for Steve, for like future movies. So I like the theme, I like the aesthetic, I thought it was pretty nice. America! There's a lot of America there! It was kind of neat, but I think you get it. I like the movie, but that's not the one we want to talk about, right? No, we don't want to talk about this one. We want to talk about the next movie. Yes, here we go. The one that the first five movies have been leading up to. The first Avengers movie. Yep. Oh, I remember still when this first came out, and it was such a huge deal. I didn't do midnight premieres like I do now. Like, this was actually the last one, and then I started doing that. It was still huge when I saw it. My friend of mine, he like did a whole like theater marathon and then led to this one, and that took all day. This was huge. You know, a whole bunch of movies leading up to one big movie where all these superheroes team up together hasn't been done before. You know, like they're having movies about the Avengers and Justice League and whatever, but as far as live action and then like it all coming together, this was the first one, and it was a huge deal, and it was fun as all hell, and it was really awesome. Loki was an awesome villain, all that fun stuff. Now, personally, at this time in 2018, considering how many great, incredible Marvel movies there's been since this one, it doesn't really hold like my favorite as much anymore. I think it's kind of sacrilegious to say that. Sorry, don't hurt me, please. I still love it. This one's still, you know, one of the greats. It's, you know, the first Avengers movie. You know, there's only going to be one Avengers 1 movie. You know what I mean? You know, this is a big deal. So it's in a way, it's like kind of a weird modern classic, I guess you could say. You know, but yeah, I can't say I like it as much as I did when it first came out, but it's still something that was really, really cool and really awesome to see. And it was the first time we actually also saw Thanos, when we realized he's the one actually, you know, making the wheels turn and whatnot, turning the crank, because we're going to prepare to see him later on. We're going to see him like really soon, but like at this point, this was like, we weren't going to see him for like 6 years. So this was, that was going to be a huge promise. But yeah, and there you have it. That's phase 1, I think, right? That was with the first Avengers. But anyway, yeah, and that's kind of what I thought about the first phase. The second phase has a lot of really awesome movies and a couple that I'm not. One kind of makes me angry, and the other one, it's just kind of the same issue as its first one. Man, there's a lot of movies to talk about with this one. So anyway, I'm going to take a break here, because I'm beat and whatnot, and oh god, I don't want to do a trailer for Age of Ultron, shut up! Anyway, that's not to phase 2, and that will be in the next video. So if you like what you saw here, if you enjoyed my little talk about the first phase of the Marvel movies, or I would like to hear your opinion too. Did you like any of these? Are your opinions similar to mine, or are they like, did you like them more, or did you not like them more? I want to know. Let me know in the comments. In the meantime, I'm going to go and mentally prepare for Infinity War, because it should actually be coming out next week, like right before it. Right before my Phase 2 video. Sorry about that. That one. Phase 3 is going to be a little bit late, but it will include Infinity War. So, yeah, anyway, that's just about it. So, until then, until next time, I will see you guys around. Take care.